This segment will show you how to transport a traditional New England clambake to any place where you can safely dig a large enough fire pit. This clambake was created 3,000 miles from New England in beautiful Tiburon, California. Lobsters, clams, and other ingredients were planned for 80 people, but you may scale it to fit your party's needs. Our team started early, about 8:30 in the morning, by digging a pit about 4 feet in diameter. Food service was planned for about 3 in the afternoon. Be sure to have fresh running water, both as a safety precaution, and you'll need it when the bake goes on to add moisture to the clambake tarp, which will cover the assembled bake. Earlier in the week, the team found about 30 rocks averaging 7 to 9 inches in diameter. The rocks store the heat so it can combine with the moisture in the seaweed and literally steam the food to perfect doneness. Charcoal briquettes were added to cover the rocks and they were ignited. Additionally, some hardwood fireplace logs provided more fuel. For the next 3 hours, the fire pit team adds charcoal while the burning coals are nearly burned down about every 45 minutes. By about 1 o'clock, the rocks will have been heated to the point where they'll retain maximum heat while the bake is cooking. Meanwhile, it's time to pick up the seafood and seaweed from a local wholesaler. Arrangements were made in advance for the purchase of Maine lobsters in both soft-shell Ipswich and hard-shell East Coast clams and East Coast seaweed called rockweed. That'll add the unique steamed saltwater flavor to the bake. Be sure they've been flown in as fresh as possible, as close to bake time. Rockweed is plentiful with seafood purveyors because it usually is packed with lobsters during wholesale transit. Be sure to order about 250 pounds of it bagged separately for a bake this size. Meanwhile, another team is preparing sweet corn on the cob, onions, and sweet potatoes. Don't remove the husks from the corn, but do bend them back and remove all the corn silk. Replace the husks and tie the ends with kitchen string. Sweet potatoes should be washed clean and will be added to the bake randomly. Large yellow or white onions will be bagged in cheesecloth, as will the Ipswich and hard-shell clams. At the fire pit, carefully rake the coals away from the rocks so that only the hot rocks remain. Add about a 6 to 8 inch layer of rockweed, completely covering the hot rocks. The cheesecloth bags of clams are next added along with the bags of onions. You can start to randomly add the sweet potatoes. Another thinner layer of rockweed should cover the clams and onions. Sweet corn is then added atop that layer. Another thin layer of rockweed precedes the final layer of food, the live Maine lobsters. Be sure that there are hot rocks directly beneath all of the food. Any food that strays off to the side may not cook as thoroughly. Finally, the water-soaked canvas tarp covers the whole pit. Seal it around the edges to be sure that no steam escapes during cooking. Spray a fine mist over the canvas. The bake can steam for about 2 hours. When you're ready, gather the crowd to watch as the canvas is peeled back. To see if the bake is done, lift a corner and check if a lobster nearest the edge is bright red. If so, you're ready for opening the bake. If not, continue cooking a little longer. Avoid plastic containers to gather the steaming hot food. This team used wicker laundry baskets to transport the food. The team picked through the layers and gathered all of the cooked food. Near the serving area, 2 empty tabletops were piled high with the bounty from the bake. Hot melted butter was available for the lobster and clams. Everyone made their way through the line, donned lobster bibs, and enjoyed a feast as primitive as our New England ancestors would have relished.